When I first got involved in the shopping center business in 1981 as a general manager of a shopping center in Canada, we had one restaurant in a mall of 700,000 square feet. Yes, we had 4 department stores, we had a food court, and today, or let's say in the 90s, when we were expanding Dira City Center, we decided that maybe 5% F&B in the terms of percentage of the merchandising mix was too low. And today, I think now we're seeing in large regional shopping centers, 15, 20, 25% of the space is dedicated to food and beverage. And if you look at these open-air lifestyle centers, let's use the beach, for example, here in Dubai, that space can be up to 70%. So we could argue that food and beverage is the new anchor. It's bringing people to the shopping destinations that never came before. I was saying to the guys earlier, you almost are surprised that anybody eats at home anymore because of so many restaurant opportunities. But when you see the hypermarkets and the supermarkets, how busy they are, I think we just found this panacea of excellent food products from the supermarket and also from the operators, everything from cafes to fine dining. So I think the key thing that Will wants to talk about is the experience of F&B, not just rolling out concept after concept after concept. What do you think can be done by developers, by managers, consultants, to make a more memorable F&B experience?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for the really great introduction. I say this up front because maybe some of the answers I might give is, as you said, might be more controversial. I think we need to stop patting ourselves on the back all the time, because we're constantly talking to each other as everybody's great, everything's fantastic, everything's beautiful. But I'll take the first speakers. I think it was Dean, who said, it's the same questions we have, and we need to adjust to the answers we give. But from what I see, from the experience and from the things I do, I'm not sure that we actually really do that. We are not giving new answers to the same questions. I think complacency is the right word in English. There's a certain element of swimming in our own kind of...
Everybody talks the same language, we're all comfortable.
It's beautiful.
We don't want to really talk about the problems.
But since the question was what can be done, I strongly believe that whatever experience comes in, unless it's something entirely technology-driven, experience is related to people driving experience. It's people, it's humans which have to create an experience. We could record this thing here and show it to the audience. It's not the same thing. It is an interaction, human interaction, still key. And as a food and beverage person, that's where the experience is started. And I'm always very surprised how little time we spend in actually developing that element of the experience. We spend a lot of time on the rest. We might talk about this later, but I don't think we really bring the people along. We're very focused on things like service, but we're not focused on hospitality. And we are in I'd say, the center of hospitality if you think of the Arab world. That's what makes the Arab world famous, right? And we talk about this later. So I think it's time to really kind of take a deep breath, look at what we do, and get a little bit more into the depth of how experiences are created and developed with the people we use, and not just putting it aside on something which is very external, not very internal.
So not going through the motions,
yeah,
but going through the process of pleasing customers.
Yes.
How you can find a way to create that genuine connection.
Yes, because it's all about lasting memories, right? It's not about the moment. It's something you walk away from, and you will talk to other people about it, which drives you back into the place. If it's only one moment and one opportunity, then you go away and you go to something else. I think somebody said before, and I'm really grateful for Ibrahim's presentation before, he put culture, people, and somewhere in the back he put design.
Design, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he spoke about loyalty as well. Loyalty is not created by a thing. Loyalty is created by an experience which I take away, which brings me back again.
Very good. Lee, you have so many of these projects, 9 of them, 400,000 new houses, which is probably something like 1.2 million new customers that want you to design shopping centers, retail plazas, destinations that make it convenient for them, because we talked about convenience being one of the 4 pillars.
Absolutely.
So when you think about these new satellite communities and new F&B destinations, what's the criteria? What are you thinking about in terms of getting it right, and then how do you deal with expectations and reality, basically?
Yeah. Well, I think it all starts with the vision of the company. So for us, we're creating a new way of living in Saudi Arabia. We're creating mixed-use projects. We're removing walls from homes, which is a new thing in Saudi Arabia. So we have no perimeter walls on the houses. We've got very user-friendly pedestrian streets. We've got lifestyle amenities. We've got all the local community amenities you need, such as schools, the mosques, the medical facilities, the hospitals, sports and recreation, and of course the retail and F&B, which fits into that. For us, we are very people-centric in terms of the way we look at both our resident customers and our external visitors to the projects. And it's really about creating mixed-use communities for us. I mean, Roshn was a community house builder. Now we're a full mixed-use integrated developer. And it all starts with understanding who the customer is. You need to know your customer so that you can actually find out what they need and want, and then you tailor your retail mix around that. One of the things we heavily focus on is research and making sure that we don't over-provide in terms of the retail. And I think that's one of the things where some developers in the region are going wrong. They're over-providing the retail, particularly the F&B.
Now we're getting to the point, right?
Okay. But, I mean, taking a step back, the Saudi F&B market is extremely strong. It's the largest domestic F&B market in the region. I mean, just food and F&B sales account for around 51% of spend, which is a huge amount.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Yeah.
And, if you look at Saudi, what's driving that F&B, it's 2 things. It's the household consumers. So what we've seen in the last census in Saudi was that household size is actually reduced from around 5.6 to around 3.6 people per household. And actually both of those household owners are double income earners. So the propensity to spend is going up.
Right. And less time at home, so more eating out.
Correct.
Okay.
So yes, we're seeing a very mobile workforce with higher incomes and propensity to spend. And there's a wider variety of choice, both international and local brands to spend their money on.
I think the great thing is the scientific approach. Now, we're going to talk later about, the connection with the customer and is it a meaningful experience. But starting with the scientific approach of saying, we're going to build so many houses. The people that live there are going to buy so much of supermarket spending, F&B spending, comparison fashion spending, entertainment spending. I know this for a fact because we worked with Roshn to work with other consultants to come up with the formula. And it was interesting how different it was from when the original consultant thought it would be. And I think that's that idea that bigger is better, more is better.
Okay, I mean, just going back to the example, I'm not going to say the project, but in the original master plan, we had 150,000 square meters of retail and F&B. Once we did our assessment of our catchment population and catchment spend, and then we can drill down in terms of what's the supportable floor area and the supportable rents, that actually reduced to 50,000 square meters. So basically, the master plan was over-provided by 2 times.
And I think the other thing is that, like Ibrahim said, we can't really predict the future, but you can make the present contained and also accommodate some future expansion. If later those communities actually need more, you probably have resources, right, for extra space.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, based on the 400,000 homes that we're building over the next 7 to 8 years, we estimate, or we pretty much know, that our catchment spend is going to be 60 billion. 60 billion riyals. That's about 25 to 30% of the total Dubai spend. So once we have that, we can then work down to the supportable floor space and then the supportable rents. But I mean, to give you a rough rule of thumb, it's around 1 square meter per person. You know, beyond that, 0.8
It
to
gets
1.2,
to be a little bit unwieldy.
it's too much.
I think, Will, this kind of moves into the direction you were talking about earlier, or at least some of the correspondence we exchanged. Like, look at Dubai, how many restaurants are there today?
Apparently, officially over 13,000. I don't know what is unofficially.
13,000, and I think that's more than New York City.
Per capita, if you think of the number of people, it's close to 4 million in Dubai.
Right.
Having that, yes.
And then we have to factor in tourism and those kinds of things.
Course.
But so there's got to be a lot of restaurants underperforming.
I would guess so.
Any guess on percentages?
Well, it's really hard to get your hands on empiric data, how restaurants work and how their P&Ls are. And some of the P&Ls I saw would probably fit into fairy tale land. So I think, I would say 2/3 of the restaurants which I see, and which I look at, cannot make enough money to make the decision worthwhile.
So that is, the plan was wrong, the execution was wrong, there's too many restaurants to begin with. Is that why that happens?
I think it's all of the above. I think obviously region is differently structured than Europe and others when it comes to restaurants closing or bankruptcies or things like that. It's not as obvious. Places change hands. So it moves from one person to the next person to the next person. So it's not automatically that a business goes out of business. It happens, but it kind of carries on for longer, let's put it that way.
There's a pride issue.
Right? Maybe.
Yeah, ego issue, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe there's a hope in the future that it'll get better.
There is a channel attitude, and this is not just here, so I have to be careful with this. It's not just driven, so hope seems to be a part of a business model. I create something, I haven't planned it proper, I have not gathered enough research and information to really kind of think, does this really fit my customer base? Do I actually know what my customer base is? And then at one point, I build it, I invest a significant amount of money, and then at the end, I find out, ooh, there's nobody coming, my restaurant's empty, or the retail environment is not driving enough traffic, and last time I checked, this is what we all build our businesses upon, right? Somebody needs to come at one point and consume, and then it's empty, and then you don't know what to do. And I think it could be avoided if there would be more upfront consideration. What do I put there? And you know, before I say something wrong here, there's nothing wrong with McDonald's and Starbucks. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I work for both brands, great brands. There's nothing wrong. But all the time, really? There must be something else than that. And at the same time, just as a reflex, thinking local is the right answer, might not be the trick either. It might make sense to look into, does it fit my environment or not? And I feel there is not enough energy and planning power put into this to understand what is it what I really want to create for the customer base I'm having, at least in my opinion.
Can I respond to that, Phil?
Sorry, go ahead.
So I completely agree with you, by the way.
Thank you.
So, I mean, you know, in terms of a landlord and owner, you know, first of all, we've got to make sure we've got the right quantum of space and the right location, but also it's actually meeting the needs of the customer. And so while we were planning our Sidra community in Riyadh, which is around 30,000 homes, 20 square kilometers next to Roshn front, we actually sent out a questionnaire to our 3,000 homeowners. And we said, okay, what categories do you want? What brands do you want? And then we can actually curate our mix accordingly.
Sure.
And just make sure we don't over-provide.
Excellent.
So on the F&B side, it's no surprise, Arabic food and Italian food was the top two.
What level of participation did people give you? That's
very high.
Yeah, because I think everybody cares.
They're engaged in their community.
Well, they care because
They care.
They're the investment in their property.
Yeah.
If you get it right and do a good job on the retail facilities, the schools, the mosques, that people will feel better about their community.
Exactly.
Asset
they feel
value
engaged.
will go up.
You know, they're part
Plus,
of that
when
community.
they're hungry, they want to get what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's pretty basic, isn't it?
Can I expand on this a
Sure,
little?
of course.
So, because I think this is is a center point of all the decisions we make when it comes to development of F&B in any project, regardless if it's small or if it's really large, is now we know what people want, now we put it there, now it's there, and then we check the box.
Yeah.
Customer said,
It's like
hey,
opening day, we're done.
I want an Italian restaurant. Beautiful. Let's put an Italian restaurant. Customer said, want a coffee shop. Check, coffee shop. And at the end of the day, we check all the boxes. So now it's there. My question is, and this is where we sit here also as well, is where's the experience? Yeah. Just putting it somewhere and having it is the first step of the story, right?
Yeah.
The actual story needs to be created. And I sometimes have the feeling that work to create that story so that customer which filled in, yes, I want an Italian restaurant, that customer, that guest had something in his mind, was she or he wanted, and that's what they actually want. They tick the box, come into the place, it's not there, thank you very much, and then at the end you have an empty place.
Can I respond to that again?
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, I don't know, can you still hear me? So we actually take that analysis a step further. So we find out what they want, and then we actually drill down further in terms of what are the popular brands, where are the Gen Zs and the millennials actually hanging out, what's popular in the market, either locally or internationally. And then we target the best-in-class operators that will respond to our customers' needs. So yes, so from Roshn's point of view, yes, we do bear that in mind.
We have that interesting relationship as developers, landlords. We have an obligation to get the product right when we develop.
Absolutely.
And then we have this obligation to make sure that whoever we rented the space to is performing at a high level. Yeah. Now, we have some, self-interest in that, because hopefully we've done a good job at developing the shopping center or the retail destination. Sales go up, hopefully rents go up. But I think that what I know from being a shopping center manager at the beginning of my career was you need to know what's going on in every store. You need to know what's going on in every restaurant. You need to know what the customer's feeling about it. And maybe that doesn't happen maybe at the pension fund level, where you're investing and you say, I need a 7% yield, and don't tell me about the complicated part about, this brand's not working. And I think it's all about that detail, is it not?
It is.
So, Lee, you recently got involved with some assets that Roshn took over that were pretty heavy in F&B.
Absolutely.
And what was your first reaction? Because I'm sure, when you buy a property, you don't buy everything excellent. There's always going to be some inherent problems.
There's some warts in there, for sure.
How did that go?
So last November we bought Riyadh Front, which was 80,000 square meters, largest single transaction in Saudi in the last 8 years. And we bought it as a strategic play because we actually own all the land up that 10
Adjacent to it?
Adjacent to it. So for us it was a strategic buy. But we knew that the F&B was over-provisioned, so we have roughly around 50%, which is ridiculous.
400,000 square feet of F&B
Yes.
in an 800,000 square foot development.
Yes. So you might ask, Lee, what are you doing about it? So, okay.
It's now your problem.
So, I mean, yes, we are obviously analyzing all the sales, but fundamentally, there's been a big shift in Saudi in terms of the 2030 when they removed all the segregation of genders. Right. So a lot of the units were actually oversized. It was almost 2 restaurants with one shared kitchen. And that's still happening, particularly in a lot of the lifestyle centers, where the units are too large, they're over 2 floors. One thing that I've come to learn, over the last 4 years in Saudi is that Saudis don't like going upstairs, and sorry to generalize. Saudis don't like going upstairs, and they don't like being overlooked. So first of all,
that's interesting because a lot of developers want rooftop terraces.
So if
it looks good architecturally.
From my point of view, with 30 plus years of experience, the only time 2 floors works is if you're looking over something wow.
Okay, sure.
Yeah?
A view property.
Like Dubai Mall Fountain or Canyon or whatever it is. Sure. So that was the first thing. So the obvious thing for us to do was actually remove all the first floor F&B. So we're actually replacing it, we're releasing it as offices. So that has a 2-fold, 3-fold impact. So we increase daytime customers. we reduce competition, and then we increase sales. So this is obviously a bit of
I think that's also
long-term
similar
play.
to what Sharam was talking about earlier, about having to work the problem, find solutions,
Yeah.
and obviously bringing office space in. I know your development, I know the development next door with the office space, too far to walk, right? Now you're putting office space right on top of these
So
restaurants.
it becomes a full mixed-use project.
Right.
You know, we've got the retail, the F&B, the
And
entertainment.
you will do the
We already
residential.
have the Amazon
Right.
office tower there. We
Right.
have more offices.
Good.
We've got the whole Sidra community behind, and we're connecting the whole thing.
I think it would be remiss if I didn't let Will have the opportunity to talk about what advice he would give to developers of shopping centers and retail destinations, I guess, on curating the F&B offer and also managing the eventual experience that the customers of the shopping center would have from these various F&B players.
I think most people in the room remember when the first malls came out, food was just there as a service function, right? We had it because we needed it. And then it was there. There was not much consideration about it.
Like a cafeteria
Like
for
a
the
cafeteria.
mall.
You need a cafeteria, you need some food.
That's true.
The Americans started with their food courts. So that was the answer to a question asked in the, 70s, 80s, whatever it was. Today, in my personal opinion, this is a far more collaborative approach. The landlord, and maybe not the pension fund, but the landlord's management kind of organization, together with the food and beverage operators, need to spend far more time in thinking what is the right mix, right? What is the right thing for that mall? And potentially invest into that decision. Put your money where your mouth is. Just putting a food hall doesn't do the trick. It is required to understand, what do I put in there? How do I do this? And I think the owners of malls would have the opportunity to do that much better. And just a last thought to this, or do we have one more question, or is it over?
I think we're got 22 seconds.
Here we
21,
go.
20.
One thing, I personally think we're over-investing massively in how things look
Right.
and what we sell.
Right.
And we underestimate investing massively in the people which have to transfer this. So the greatest looking thing will not attract me back. I need somebody who actually really does something which make me remember how great that thing was.
It doesn't look, it can look awesome, but if someone has a bad experience or an underwhelming experience, who cares about the physical
And
environment?
as I said before, I think there's lots and lots of companies which we came across, they spend more time in picking out the right plates versus how to bring the stuff along. Most staff in restaurants don't know how the food tastes, they don't know anything about the story, they're not being brought along into anything else, but they should deliver every day with every customer what
Absolutely.
you spend millions for. I don't think that works.